So this is the Trenton Case, and it's me and my group just sort of give you a little overview of it. Some related terms to this case is requirement to accommodate. It's when an employee accommodates an employer accommodates the employee's religious practice and beliefs that may interfere with work. Disparate treatment, intentional discrimination in the workplace, which we definitely see over and over in this case. Harassment in the harassment in the workplace is found when an employee or employer belittles or threatens any employee or employee's loved one. You see this with the voodoo dolls and that type of stuff with this case. Racial discrimination directed towards a individual based on their skin color or racial or ethnic or ethical affiliation. Religious discrimination when an employer refuses to accommodate an employee's request for different types of religious practices. Laws relating to the Trenton case. Title VII is definitely one of the biggest laws that we see be violated in this case. It protects employees from discrimination based on religion, and also protects employees from harassment. So yeah, as you see, that definitely gets violated in this case. And the First Amendment, it's one of the founding principles that this country was built on. It's the right to religious freedom. You see this when Demur has freedom. He totally has freedom to attend any church or any practice, whatever, or he gets freedom to practice whatever religion he wants and no backlash from any other party.
So in this case, the members of Trenton both failed, and they both supported the EEO in some ways. They failed to support the EEO because in the EEO it says they will not discriminate during the hiring process, and due to Malik's religion and race, he faced discrimination from his peers and supervisors, and he was unable to obtain a job because of it. And then they supported the EEO because when Malik faced harassment and he brought it up to the supervisors and HR, they took care of the issue. And then when he was asked about it further in the future, he stated that all was well and he wasn't facing the harassment. And then the preventable measures that they could have taken, Jenkins could have done a lot in this situation. He was the most that it was his fault. And Jenkins could have stopped the issue when it first started, when people started putting items on Malik's desk. And he also could have been more discreet when Malik told him why he was leaving for religious purposes, because once he returned from that, that's when he faced the most criticism. And then the HR department could have prevented it because they could have been more involved in the hiring process, because that's what ultimately got Malik to bring it up and sue the company. And then also they could have done more to promote diversity amongst their employees and make them more aware about it.
How the company should proceed. We were presented with the question of how Judith Dixon should proceed. And first and foremost, the company must issue an apology to Malik. Sensitivity and religious diversity inclusion training should be taken by the employees in the office as well as people in HR and management. And monetary damages in the form of various payments should be provided to Malik for the hardships he went through in the office. And lastly, an investigation about the new hiring of the candidate that was related to the popular church that everyone in the company or majority of the company had gone to should be taken to see if he was actually qualified to beat out Malik for this position. This is all important because if the company does not proceed with strict measures here, we could see that multiple issues can arise in the workplace, and this will be a continual problem.
The first related case is one involving religious discrimination. The defendant was Premier Well Services, and the plaintiff was Eugene Keller. Premier Well Services revoked Mr. Keller's consideration for a possible job candidacy after they were informed of his religious beliefs. Mr. Keller was awarded monetary relief in the form of back pay and compensatory and punitive damages. Also, in statement and injunction against future discrimination, and the total sum of the damages was $30,000. Second related religious discrimination case, defendant Frito-Lay, plaintiff Jonah Toussaint. Once again, the claim was religious discrimination, Title VII. Description is Frito-Lay terminated a newly promoted sales representative because he was unable to train for the position on Saturdays because of his Seventh-day Adventist religious beliefs. The company then fired him after he failed to report to training on 2 consecutive Saturdays. Johnny Toussaint was awarded $50,000 in monetary relief, and a mandate was pressed on Frito-Lay that they would provide specialized training and reasonable accommodation processes to human personnel, managers, and employees. and also require that all accommodation requests be reviewed and decided by PepsiCo regional staff with special knowledge of Title VII.
An EEOC case that was related to the Trenton case on the side of race involved Eureka Stone Quarry and an African-American employee. The claim in the case was racial harassment in violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In this case, the plaintiff, an African-American heavy equipment operator, was both physically and verbally harassed by coworkers due to his race and color, with multiple slurs being directed at him and actually having a gun fired at him. And he ended up quitting the job because of this harassment. In the end, the company was fined $58,000 and had to furnish significant injunctive relief.
The second related case for race, we see racial discrimination as the claim, as well as the franchise not hiring Black applicants because of their color. The plaintiff here is Black applicants against Pensec Incorporation. Pensec is a McDonald's franchise in Wisconsin, which refused to hire Black applicants at their location. This action violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And because of that, the company was told to pay damages in the form of $31,137 and required to furnish other relief.
Some of the similarities and differences in these religious cases were that monetary relief was awarded to both the plaintiffs and measures were implemented to ensure that future discrimination would not occur in the companies. Differences being that the ethnic background contributed to the religion preference of the individual in the Trenton case, and that the combination of both attributes ultimately drove employer discrimination. The employee was fired in the Frito-Lay case, but the employee in the Trenton case was not terminated.
And then some similarities and differences with the race cases. Some similarities was that African Americans were harassed. They were harassed based on their race and ethnic background in all the cases. The employee's reporting manager in the cases did not attempt to make a harsh stop or really do anything to stop the harassment in any of the cases. And in two of the cases, race affected applicants with getting hired for a position. Some of the differences is that the plaintiff in the Eureka case was physically harassed, while in the other two cases, there was no physical harassment, and no one took any action in the Eureka case. While in the Trenton case, the HR team, although it was late, they did do a decent job addressing the situation and trying to stop it.
Possible financial impacts. Seeing as though Trenton is a major company, this means that they could be hit with a larger financial impact. We could see this going as high as $50,000 in range to settle the situation. While the severity of this case is not at the same level as the EEOC cases, the situation was handled much better by Trenton HR team than the other companies. And in this case, the other EEOC cases ranged from $50,000 to $80,000.